this guy's been caught. I mean, let's be honest. He knows that not what's been uncovered is bad, but what is yet to come is likely even worse. That is why he is not running for re-election. He's been done in by hubris. He's been done in by his inattentiveness to the fraud going on in his state. And he was done in by a YouTuber.
A learning center, spelled Quality Leering Center instead of Quality Learning Center. They had received $1.9 million, yet with that $1.9 million, they could not even spell leering right on their sign. Governor Walz has said he's been fighting fraud in Minnesota since 2019 and said the buck stops with him. However, how long would it take for you to notice $1 million leaving your bank account and not knowing where it's going?
Like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell to get notifications anytime I go live or make a video. Make sure you still subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Let's get into this. Nick Shirley, he's on testifying before Congress. Let's roll Nick Shirley's opening statement. Roll the clip.
I'm here today to speak on behalf of all hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens here inside of the United States. I've helped bring to light widespread fraud that's happening inside our nation, and we the people have had enough of our hard-earned money going towards fraudsters as if it's no big deal. As I speak here, I want to ask everyone a question. How much do we trust when we pay our taxes it's going to benefit our nation? People erupted during the Boston Tea Party over just a few percentages as they believed they were being taxed without representation. Nowadays, we have the representation, but do we trust our representatives? My name is Nick Shirley, and I made a 41-minute video that I posted on platforms like X and YouTube. My video received over 100 million views, and it created instant change within our government. As the federal government launched investigations in departments such as Health and Human Services froze over $185 million in childcare funding until businesses can prove they are legitimate businesses. I actually became aware of the fraud that was happening in Minnesota in June of 2025, as I was there for a separate video in Minnesota and started reaching out to me, asking me if I was making a video on the fraud. I said, well, what fraud? And this lady, she was a real estate agent, and she says, well, I'm having a hard time selling my properties because people are curious about these assisted livings that are popping up next door to some of the houses that we're buying or the home health care clinics that are popping up, and we don't know who's next to these houses that we're trying to sell. And I said, well, I'm not going to come and make a video if I don't have any proof. So therefore, I left Minnesota, and I continued to look for fraud in the best way I could. And as I was getting my own information, a man by the name of David reached out to me, and he said, hey, I have been investigating this fraud for years now. I have been driving by these child care centers. I have never seen a single child, and I have received the information from the state of Minnesota as to how much money these places are receiving. I said, great, let me come to Minnesota, and we'll make this video about potential fraud that was taking place inside of Minnesota. We go to a daycare, and I'm instantly surprised by what we see. We arrived, and it was an industrialized building, and there was 2 daycares registered at that daycare, at that building. And the first thing I noticed is all the windows are blacked out, and there's no footprints in the snow of any children. There's no playgrounds or anything that would make it look like it's a child care. But above me, a sign read, open 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But there was nobody there. The doorbell did not even work. And then we continued to go to other daycares, and we noticed the same pattern. No children, blacked out windows, and one daycare, a learning center, spelled Quality Leering Center instead of Quality Learning Center. They had received $1.9 million, yet with that $1.9 million, they could not even spell leering right on their sign.
I want to show you guys the Black Lion Guardian Fund real quick, because I want you guys to go and support Nick Shirley. He's out there doing God's work, and he's doing it all over the country. He's going to go to more places, and he needs to have security. I tell him this all the time, and I think that we should understand this at this point, is that they want you gone. He's exposing billions of dollars worth of fraud. People resigning. They're getting indicted. They don't want him around, but we got to keep him protected. When I say we, not only the Guardian Fund, but all of you. And shout out to everybody that have been contributing. We also support these other young men as well. Savannah, we supported her last endeavor that she just went on campus to have a speech, and she told us it was very successful. But remember the guy, Dave, that he was talking about? That really helped him uncover this fraud in Minnesota. I mean, Dave was the engine behind all of the research. He lives in Minnesota, and he kind of exposed this too with Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley had the platform, he had the information, but he also needs security as well. So if you want to be generous enough and donate to these young people and some of these other people that we're supporting to make sure that they're secure and they can keep doing the job that God has called them to do, you could go on and donate. All you have to do is go to Black Line Guardian Fund, and you can pick the person that you want to direct your donations to, or you can give a general donation, which also helps with our security for schools, religious facilities, and other individuals who are at risk. We could do what we call TVAs. We could do threat assessments online, all of that stuff. Your support helps that cause.
Governor Walz has said he's been fighting fraud in Minnesota since 2019 and said the buck stops with him. However, how long would it take for you to notice $1 million leaving your bank account and not knowing where it's going? That's essentially what had been happening in Minnesota for years, as billions of dollars has been misplaced. And meanwhile, while people like Governor Tim Walz call people like me a white supremacist, delusional conspiracy theorist, he actually decided to drop out of re-election because I believe of how deep and extensive this fraud is. Thank you very much. Since my reporting, the HHS department froze over $185 million, and to this day, not a single business has been able to prove proof of legitimacy. How fast would you be proving that you are a legitimate business if you have children to actually feed and to take care of? You'd be sending in that paperwork instantly. I made this video to document the widespread fraud that has been taking place, as I truly believe all fraud is bad. And people like me, my generation, we're sick of seeing tax dollars go towards fraud. We just want to have the same opportunities that our fathers and our grandparents had. And when you see people making millions of dollars by committing fraud, it upsets everybody from all age demographics. And so I hope today we can have a good conversation, and I think we can all agree that fraud is bad and that fraud is fraud. And I wish the best for our country, and I think that's what needs to be happening, is to crack down on all forms of fraud. So thank you for having me, and God bless the USA.
Oh, I love that, man. That young man. You know how crazy this is? It's crazy. Let me say this. Nick Shirley is crazy. Why do you say that, Brandon? Because it takes a young man to put his life on the line to be out here exposing fraud. Now, when I say crazy, not to us because he makes sense, but to them, he's crazy. Why would a 20-something-year-old guy go out and do this? Why would he put his life on the line to do this? And that's because they don't understand, like Nick Shirley said, the generation that he lives in is sick of the fraud and sick of the BS. And it's insane that a kid his age, with no major backing from mainstream, exposed all this fraud on a cell phone camera. And with a video he edited. Nobody edited. He edited their own video. He one-man team. Outside of security that we're providing for him, but he's a one-man team. What is going on in our country that the mainstream media can't even send a journalist out there? Well, you working for the government and you don't know this fraud going on like this in your city? $1 million, no kids. You know, we worry every day about the IRS or somebody trying to audit us and we doing everything right. They doing blatant fraud. Now, let me say this real quick before we get to the next clip, because I want to play a couple clips where Nick Shirley is being questioned. All of these seem to be friendly questions. Hopefully we can get some controversial questioning in, because I know that the dumb Democrats, I mean, the retarded left, I mean, the craziness that's going on in our country in the minds of these fools, maybe that's a better way to put it, I bet they were going to disagree with this young man and not disagree with the fraud that's going on. All right, let's get back to some of the interviews for that Nick Shirley had, or at least people were asking him questions. And so this individual was talking to Nick, Mr. Moore, about some of the things that are going on with the daycare or the childcare centers. Roll the clip.
Can you confirm how many daycare centers you personally visited in Minnesota during your investigation?
During that first video, we went to around 7.
How did you select those facilities? I know you said earlier footprints in the snow, but how was it that you identified those facilities to go to initially?
So the man David in the video, he had the daycares with the CCAP funding, and we just simply drove around Minnesota and around Minneapolis area.
Took a lot of courage to do that, I would imagine. Probably more so now than what it was when you initially did it. 100 million views, you said.
Yes, over 140 million views on X alone.
So what was Mr. David's background? How did you connect with him, and how did he call you, or did you reach out?
He simply is just a man in Minnesota who has a passion for his city, and he's been seeing fraud taking place for years. And out of all the thousands of messages I get on Instagram and other platforms, I just happened to read his, and he provided me the information, so I gave him a phone call.
And then from there, just went to those different facilities. What was probably the most interesting thing as you were doing this? I think I saw the video. We watched it, and it looked like there was a number of facilities like in the same building.
Yes. So in one building, there was, I believe, 3 daycares, and there was no children. And they were all receiving CCAP funding for separate daycares. There's one daycare we went to that one day it was closed by the government, and then that same day it was reopened underneath another name. And they both received CCAP funding.
I bet, Ms. Larson, they probably weren't getting audited nearly like you were.
I would guess not.
So how many daycares are there in Minneapolis we think are fraudulent right now? Mr. Shirley, any idea? Are the amount of money total? You got any idea on that?
Well, they've frozen over $185 million, and not a single business has been able to prove that they're a legitimate business yet.
It's $185 million for sure that we know.
And don't you think that's kind of interesting? Like immediately, these companies should go out of business. If we say we're going to withhold funding if you can't prove, like what's so hard to prove? There has to be certification. You have to have a log of the children logging in every day, right? Like even when you take your kid to school, they keep attendance. So you have to have a log of the parents that are registering their children for school. So you at least should be able to present to the government. Here's my, I don't understand. Like you guys got to understand this stuff is it's more simple than they're making it seem. Therefore, the fraud is more prevalent than you could imagine. Like when I've created, I don't know how many companies at this point, maybe 5 companies, 6 companies, 7 companies, a ton of companies that I've created from scratch. And every company, there's incorporation documents that they're incorporated in a particular state that you're operating in. There's a legal process to do it. If anybody wanted to audit any of the businesses, we got the documentation in the booklet that shows that we incorporated all our filings and everything are up to speed according to the IRS. We have books, we have tax returns, we have everything like that. With bookkeeping, all of this stuff. How are these people getting millions and millions of free money and they can't even present a document that shows that they're operating properly? We got questioned by Zeffie, where they were being weird with us when it come to, we gave them every document that they could ever dream of to show that we're legitimate. And it took us, 30 seconds? They said, we need this, this, and this. Oh, we got that right? Boop, boop, boop. Done. We need this, this, and this. Done. We need invoices. Done. I think it took us 10 seconds. It probably took longer for the email to send back to them than it took us to get it. And nobody with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line can prove that they're legitimate. I'm telling you guys right now, I have not tasted a bourbon like this ever in my life. We went through rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds of making sure the taste was right, making sure it was perfect. And I'm telling you, and when you get it and you try it, you will be able to give us a review and let me know if I'm lying. I have never had a bourbon this smooth with this much character that didn't cost hundreds of dollars. So we took a while to produce it. We took a while to get the taste right, but it's on point. Verdict, guilty, which is a straight 6-year aged, or you get not guilty with a hint of brown sugar in it. The best bourbon that I've ever tasted. So make sure if you're interested, go on. You must be 21 and over, obviously, but you make sure you drink responsibly. We don't do the irresponsible drinking. We don't do the drinking to get drunk and intoxicated. we do the fine dining experience when it comes to bourbon, all right? So all you got to do is go to verdictreservespirits.com, verdictreservespirits.com. We'll put the link in the description section. People are already just going ham. I mean, hundreds of people have already pre-ordered. Should be available later this month. We'll start shipping them out. But I'm telling you, the best on the market, and it's $59.99. I could talk about this the whole show. But y'all go get you some Verdict and let me know which one you like the most, the guilty or not guilty. Come on, more questions. Let's go to Kevin. I think it's Kevin Kiley. Wrote a clip.
Well, now you're seeing, since I've posted that video, lots of other people have started to go to other locations, for instance, in Ohio or in Maine or in California. They're also seeing the similar fraud take place in other daycares, for instance, in a lot of other locations.
Yeah, I have a particular interest in California, being from that state, and we know that there's been a lot of fraud. There was $32.6 billion that's been confirmed in unemployment insurance fraud. There's 1.2 million fraudulent community college applications. Have you gotten any sense, or have you seen any signs there that sort of are similar to what aroused your suspicions in Minnesota?
Yeah, and fraud in California might be worse than the fraud in Minnesota.
What makes you say that?
Well, $24 billion went missing for homelessness. They've been trying to build this train for years, yet there's hardly anything to prove for that. Fires.
Yeah, those are good points. So you look at let's run through a couple of those. Because I mentioned the areas where we have confirmed fraud, but then you also have these areas where you have so much spending, and then we look at what results from that spending, and there's nothing. So $24 billion in homelessness, and yet the homeless population went up, and a state audit found that they couldn't even figure out where the money went or what the outcomes linked to that spending were. Is that something that is kind of a red flag for you?
Yeah, it's a major red flag, and you don't even have to be smart to be able to know that that's a red flag.
Well, unfortunately, our state legislators haven't managed to figure that out, or at least the governor hasn't. So what are you saying about him?
They're not smart. No, but yeah, I mean, it's so obvious, and that's what we saw in Minnesota is how complicit the government has been in enabling this fraud to happen. Quality Learning Center had over 90 violations, yet they continue to give that daycare $1.9 million.
You know, and it's crazy because I would go to jail if somebody managing my business and managing my books came to me and said, Brandon, I don't know where $200,000 went. I'm not going to know where you went. If you lost $200,000 out of my company, you can't tell me nothing? You don't know where it went. Well, you better go find it and don't come back till you find the money. I would probably, there'll be some violence maybe if somebody did that. But they doing this to your money every day. Every day they don't know what's going on with your money. They take your money, cry about billionaires and millionaires and want to double tax and triple tax. They got tax on gas. They got tax when you spend. They got tax when you die. They got tax after you pull your money from investments. They got tax when you got a house and you pay property tax. And then when you sell the house, they got a tax on that. Tax on your vehicle registration. I mean, God dang, they taxing out of everybody. And then they tell you they don't know what they do with your money. I went to California. I knew somebody that lived in the what they call that? Hollywood Hills. Them houses, $100 million houses, $1 million houses. The road looked like sugar honey iced tea. It looked like Afghanistan. Like you got to get new suspension driving up and down the wealthiest street in the state, potentially. What are they doing with the money? California is a crap show. I remember I went to do an event in California. I'm driving down the street. In broad daylight, some people had a whole Home Depot set up. They got different, you know how you go to Home Depot and you got different brands? They had stolen material, different power washers, drills, all kinds of stuff on a wall. Then I drive by a lady washing her crotch in the middle of like her pants was down. She got her crotch and washing it like this. Billions of dollars and they doing that in the middle of the street.